Hi, and welcome to Object-Oriented Programming. Once we have gotten some basic requirement together for the first iteration, our list of what this application must do, and this could be written on a requirement document or statement of work or just some bullet points on a whiteboard. We can start to describe our app in more detail, and what we do in this step will make it more obvious, the classes that we need to create. And to do this, we switch our focus. We go from feature focus requirement, where we say the system must or the application must, now to a user focus. How does the user accomplish particular goal with our application? And the aim is to write these everyday language, not the technical as possible. The typical user of this app should be able to read one of these descriptions and understand it. Now, as ever, there is no requirement way that you must write these, but there are these two formats commonly used in the phase of the design process. One is called a use case and the other is called user story. And we are going to talk about both, but first up, use case. Use cases can be written at several different levels of formality, but at the most essential they need three things: a title that describes the goal we are looking for, the person who wants that goal referred to as the actor, and the step need to accomplish the goal, the actual scenario here. Because we are not just describing an isolated feature, but describing this interaction in full context, a complete step-by-step encounter which could have multiple possible results, including when things go wrong. Now, the best title for a use case is a short phrase with an active verb. Example here might be register new member, transfer funds, purchase items, create new page, and so on. These could be separate use cases, separate but distinct goals of the application. And then we have an actor. Now the reason that we say actor rather than the generic user is because we often need to identify exactly who is having this interaction. It could be a user, but also a customer, a member, or administrator. An application that has users in different roles would have different goals to describe for each of the roles. And it doesn't have to be human being. It could be another computer interacting with our application. So any external entity that acts on our system is an actor. Then we have the scenario that details the accomplish this one goal. This could be written as a single phrase, something like this. We talk about the customer review items and shopping carts, customer provides payment and shipping information. System validates the payment information and responds with confirmation of order, and provides order numbers that a customer can use to check on the order status, and so on. We are writing this so it's short and succinct and can be understood by a typical user of the application. It's also very common to write this scenario as individual steps as a number list. So step 1, customer chooses to enter the checkout process. Step 2, customer is shown the confirmation page for the record, allowing them to change the quantities, removing items or cancel, and so on. Notice that I can go to a slightly different phrase or different level of details. That's perfectly alright. It's whatever makes sense for the situation. Now, either of these ways of describing this use case could be considered as informal or casual case. We are describing the normal expected flow. Now, depending on the situation, we may need to describe stock checking for physical items or download links for the digital items. But we are describing a goal from the perspective of a user. This is not pseudocode. This is not something we take our code editor and start writing. We are not there yet, and we are not trying to be. Now, depending on the situation, you can not only detail the main scenario, but you can also add extension, steps for alternative flow, like what happens when items are out of stock, or for an order never finalized, or for things go wrong like payment problems. And if it's more useful, you can add something more specific details about the scenario. One common example would be precondition. What must be true to begin this use case? Here perhaps the precondition would be customer has added at least one of the shopping cart. That's the only way this use case makes sense. And now you can take all the way to what's often referred to as fully dressed use case. Beyond the usual title, actor and scenario include multiple placeholder for a trigger and description, precondition, postcondition. Who were the stockholders in this? And these often exist as PDF templates or Word document templates that can fill in, but be careful here. Formalities always sounds like a good idea, but requiring this level of detail can kill progress. In a very formal large project with team members spreading across the globe, fully dressed use case might be necessary. But for most projects, it must better to have a set of readable casual use case than a collection of super formal multiple pages template that never get completed. If it helps, here's some perspective on how long you should spending on these. 1 or 2 days in any iteration would be a good goal. If you are working with customer, you get together. You can take over a conference room for a couple of days, and that's where you work through your requirement and your most important set of use case as well, but as quickly as you can, so you can move into the next phase. If you find yourself a month later still working on making perfect use case, you are probably turning this into something isn't meant to be. Now, there's our use case diagram, but forget about the diagrams for a moment. Use cases are first and foremost written text. These are stories. These are not diagrams. We will see the use case diagrams a little later, but as with all the diagrams, they are for the support, not a replacement. So that's all for this video, and thank you so much for watching.